Hello, Advanced Geometry. This is Miss Butler, and we are starting the year with some review of algebra concepts. Hopefully you have worked out this warm-up before you started play. If not, please pause and do the warm-up before you join me. Okay, so let's go through this after you've done that. One thing you want to look at here is we're going to factor out the GCF, the greatest common factor. That is always going to be the first step to look for whenever you're factoring. So in this particular case, you'll notice just looking at the first term here that this needs a 2. So I'm going to try and just put a 2 here, and then we're going to start distributing and to make sure we're on the right track. So here we get 2x squared. 2 times 2x is 4x. So we're good so far. And then we need a 6. So obviously 2 times 3 would be the 6. And so as long as when you distribute, you get a match to the original expression, then you know that you have checked it out and it's good. So the first blank is a 2, the second blank is a 3. On the second one here, the first blank is gone, so we'll just look at this -3 to help us. So the -3 should go with this 6. So obviously you would have to multiply -3 times something to get a +6 would be a -2. Okay, and then to multiply here to get a -4, you would need a +2. So -2 times a +2 is -4. -2 times a -3 is a +6. So that distribution checked. You got the original expression, so that's a -2, and that is a 2. Moving on. So the next ones, you're dealing with variables and the greatest common factor. So please pause and try warm-ups 3 and 4. Okay, welcome back. So you are going to, again, look at this first term, and what needs to be factored out here is an x. Okay, and we're going to start distributing to check. So x times 2x squared is 2x to the third. X times something is 4x squared. That would have to be a 4x to get a 4x squared. And then x times 5 is the 5x, which is what we needed. Okay, so that matches our original expression. So check. So that's an x and that's a 4x. Second one. So only thing we're given here is the 4y in the middle. So we'll compare that with the 12y squared. So something times 4y is 12y squared. That's going to have to be a 3y. Okay, so that's 12y squared in the middle. 3y times something is 3y to the third. So that is going to have to be a y squared to get 3y to the third. And then lastly, something times 3y is 6y. That is going to have to be a 2. So 3y times 2 is 6y. Okay, and then that matches our original expression. So this is 3y, y squared, and then the 2. Okay, next we're going to extend that to factoring with binomials. So again, pause and try warm-ups 5 and 6. Okay, welcome back. So let's go over again what FOIL stands for. So FOIL has to do with multiplying 2 binomials. Binomials have 2 terms. Trinomials have 3 terms. So first is multiplying the 2 first pieces of the binomials. So x times x would be x squared. Okay, O stands for outside. So the x times the outside number, which we will get to here in a second. I stands for the inside. And then L stands for the last 2. Now the last 2 here always got to multiply to the 6, to the last number. So in this case, 3 times this would have to be a 2 to get the 6. But now we're going to obviously check. So x times x is x squared. X times 2, we generally write the 2 first, 2x. 3 times x is 3x, and then 3 times 2, which is 6. Combine like terms. So 3x and 2x both have an x to the first power, so we can combine those. So that's a total of 5x, and then plus 6. So this matches our original expression. So we've checked and that 2 is correct. We've confirmed the 2 is correct. Okay, so we get to here. So what we learned from the last example is really the most important piece is that 2, the last thing you have to do, the 2 times the blank, has to be 8. So this should be a 4, but we are going to FOIL to check. So x squared, 4x, 2x, and then the 8. Combine like terms and you get the x squared plus 6x plus 8. Again, matching, that checks out. The 4 is correct. Okay, so moving on to our notes. We are going to review over factoring quadratic trinomials. You did learn this last spring, but this is a necessity for this school year, but also next school year. You have to know how to factor and factor really well. So we are going to do this a lot this class. So just going over what that means, factoring a quadratic trinomial. If it's a trinomial, basically we are dividing it or factoring, divide into 2 binomials. Okay, they are linear, so they're going to have just x's in them, not x squareds, but you're dividing it into 2 binomials. Okay, from the FOIL we just went through, it's always going to have x times x to get you that x squared. And then as we just talked about, these last 2 numbers are always going to multiply to get that c. Okay, so you're going to list the factor pairs of c to figure out what goes in those last positions. And then for right now, I'm just going to have you FOIL it out because we want to minimize memorization. So we're going to just FOIL it out and then we're going to see the pattern. It is pretty obvious, but we are going to go through that. So the first step here, you would have an x here and an x here, always, for that x squared. And then we're just going to look for factor pairs of 12 because those last 2 numbers do have to multiply to 12. So what I like to list out is I just start with 1 times that number and then start going up from there. So 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4, and then it would be 4 times, but we already have the 4, so we know we're done. So these are my 3 factor pairs. Officially, you can do negatives as well, but we know that the middle term is positive, so all of these would have to be positive. Okay, so we are going to just go through all the different scenarios here. So if I FOIL this to see if I have the right answer, it's going to be 12x, and this is going to be 1x. Generally, we just write x, the assumed 1, and then plus 12. Combine like terms, we have x squared plus 13x plus 12. Okay, that does not match our original expression, so we know that that is not correct. Okay, next one. So we're going to put in the x plus 2 and the x plus 6. I am going to start going a little faster. So 2x and then plus 12. Combine like terms. And that one doesn't work. Okay, again, the 8x does not match. So hopefully it's this one. I know some of you are already seeing the pattern on how you know which factor pair works, but it is good to go through the checking as a review. So x squared, combine like terms, and that one gets you the middle term that you wanted. So, do it in blue. So the final answer here should be x plus 3 and x plus 4. Okay, so this would be the factored form of that original quadratic trinomial. Okay, next. So we just factored x squared plus bx plus c. Now we're going to do x squared minus bx plus c. The only difference here, obviously, is that middle term, or when you combine like terms, you get a negative middle term. So still start out the same way. So we're going to do factor pairs of 18. But because when I combine like terms, it has to be negative, I know that both of these would have to be negative, because a negative times a negative is still a positive. And these are my options. Okay, at this point, you should have a good sort of feeling on what would work, hopefully. But it is going to be the -3 and the -6. And then we're just going to check to make sure. So we have combine like terms, and that's going to get you the -9x plus the 18. So to get that -9x, you got to pick numbers where when you combine the like terms, you end up with that correct middle term. So x minus 3, x minus 6 would be the factored version. Next one. So x squared plus bx minus c, x squared minus bx plus bx and then minus bx, but you have a negative c. So how do the numbers multiply to get negative? You got to have one positive and one negative. Okay, now that makes for a lot more pairs. So for example, -6 could be -1 times 6, but also 1 times a -6. -2 times 3, or 2 times a -3. So these would be all the possibilities to multiply to -6. That does make things a little bit, a lot more options anyway. So here we want to multiply to -5. So we have our x and our x. My only options for -5 are -1 times 5 and 1 times a -5. To combine like terms to get a +4, I am going to use this guy. So it'd be -1 and a +5. Okay, again, foiling to check. So a minus, and then combine like terms, and you see that 4x. Okay, so one last example. I want you to pause and try yourself. Welcome back. So we're going to have x and x. We're going to do factor pairs of -10. So we have -1 times 10, 1 times a -10, -2 times 5, and 2 times a -5. The combined like terms has to be a -3. So I'm going to pick the 2 and the -5. So x squared minus 5x plus 2x minus 10. And then combine like terms, and you get the original expression. Okay, good job for lesson 1, number 1, and I will see you next time.